to you from Brand Viva Media Studios. It's Adam Contos with Start With a Win. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing so good.
Right on. The springtime is here. I love this.
Here. I know. I love the spring. It's beautiful outside. I spent the weekend staining a fence, out in the sun, and
that sounds like that sounds like a lot of fun, buddy.
Yeah. Well, when you do it for someone you love, it makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, there you go. And then you sit there in the afternoon going, "Wow, what a beautiful
look
fence.
how this fence looks brand new."
Awesome.
Exactly.
Hey, we have an amazing show today.
We do have an amazing show today.
Our guest is so cool, has an amazing concept. I love it. Can you bring her on?
Yes. All right, so we got Lindsay on here today, Lindsay Pinchuk. She's a former high-powered magazine publisher, executive turned business owner and leader. So she's got a lot of knowledge for us. And she's the founder of Bump Club and Beyond, a community of resources, support, and education tools for millions of parents and parents-to-be across the country. So, Lindsay, welcome to Start With a Win.
Thanks so much for having me. It's so good to be here.
Lindsay, it's great to see you. This is a really cool concept because, as a parent, it's the information, the help, the networking, things like that you provide is truly incredible. But I want to take a step back into, you were a high-powered magazine executive. Let's tell us your story. Everybody wants to know, okay, you went from this great corporate career to entrepreneur, starting to help people in mass. Tell us your story.
Yeah, of course. So funny thing is I loved my job. Really and truly, I loved my corporate career in magazine ad sales. I was hired by the Hearst Corporation at age 23 to be an account executive. I was the youngest one on the floor, and I loved every minute of it. And for 10 years, I created and sold advertising, sales plans and programs and integrated marketing programs to Fortune 500 companies. I was traveling all over the country. It was amazing. I was working for brands like Redbook and Good Housekeeping. And I had just an amazing team around me. It was awesome. So, there were no issues with that. And then I got pregnant, and not that and it was planned. There was no issues with that either. And I very easily could have gone about, my life and continued working in ad sales. But when I got pregnant, we were living in Chicago. We still do. We live in the suburbs, and we're transplants to Chicago. And I had no support. I had no community. And at the time, none of my closest friends were pregnant. We all have fifth graders, so I was just first. And I said to my husband, there's nowhere for me to find pregnant people. Once I have this baby, sure, but there's nothing. So I said, there has to be some kind of business in this. And I started hosting events, literally prenatal workout, a shopping event at a maternity store. Then people were like, what's next? What's next? We started bringing in speakers. And you have to remember, this was before social media. This was before Facebook had business pages. When I told people I was hosting this first event, it was I sent an email to everyone I knew. I put it on my LinkedIn. I put it on my personal Facebook, and that was it. And we had 50 people show up to each of the first two events. So I ended up starting this community simply by showing up and being pregnant. And we grew alongside social media. We grew alongside the needs of our community, along my needs as I had my baby. We expanded, and I started hosting events for moms. 9 years later, I was approached by 3 different entities to sell my company, and I ended up leading our acquisition to a large agency holding company in 2019, where I went and worked for 2.5 years. And last summer in 2021, I ended up making the decision to exit, and now I am starting all over, building a community for female founders.
I love that. Okay, so what's the name? Have you named the new community yet?
Yeah, so I have a podcast called Dear Found Her. And so online you can find the Dear Found Her Facebook community and the Dear Found Her podcast. My company is Lindsay Pinchuk Marketing and Consulting. And, I'm helping both single individual solopreneurs and large female founded brands, both coaching and consulting on growing their own communities and monetizing them.
But it took some humility in your leadership in that process, I'm sure, going from, you're in a corporate entity, you have this incredible support structure. You talked about your expense account, things of that nature. And now it's just you by yourself. And you're going, wait a sec, you're doing everything from taking out the trash to making the phone calls, to picking up the phone, to saying, I need some marketing. And you're going, I need some marketing. Well, you got to hold up the mirror and go, that means you have to go do the marketing.
Right.
And how did you adapt that humility of going from that big corporate machine to you and understand time to go?
You really have to know when to ask for help. And help does not mean hiring someone full-time at 6 figures. There are a lot of different creative ways to get help. I just kind of am of the mindset that, like, when you cannot do something, if it's really taking you so much long, just find someone to help you do it. Ask someone for help. Barter if you need to, if you don't have the money. There are so many different ways as an entrepreneur that you can be scrappy. And other entrepreneurs know that they've been there too, and it will come back to them. It will come back to you. You'll pay it forward later. I'm paying it forward now, and that's fine. Like, it's totally fine. You don't have to think that, you don't have to be in the mindset that you have to have a whole team when you're first starting, to answer your question. And I was real creative. I had a lot of 1099s. I had a lot of moms who were working for me part-time that really just wanted to own something and to be a part of something. So you just have to be creative.
Let's talk about your next venture and the leadership lessons you're taking forward with you, because that's really what your next venture is about, is building those women leaders, those women founder leaders. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's my understanding of the new organization. What leadership lessons are you taking forward into that, and what truly do you want people to know about the new venture?
The number one thing is to know when to say no and to be able to say no. With this new business, I very much understand what is important in life and my priorities, and that is my family first. And so I know when to say no. And, like, I'm not going to always say yes to every little thing. And truthfully, I'm not going to say yes to a lot. I really have trimmed the fat on a lot of that. And that is really what I want to instill and empower in the women who follow me and the women who turn to me for advice, to not feel the pressure all the time. We're not, unless you really are curing cancer. I am not a doctor. I am not saving lives. And if it has to wait till tomorrow, it's okay. So that is really, like, the big lesson. And then the second part of your question was, what do I want people to know? Is I want people to know that they can do it. And I want to empower people to make the decision to move forward with whatever it is that they want to do in terms of starting a business. I think a lot of us hold back because we wait for perfection, and we say the time is not right, or I'm going to have a baby, or my kid is starting camp, or there is never a right time for any of this, whether you're a male or a female. And so my whole notion is really to just do it. Just, like, get your shit out there and do it. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to change. It's going to change over time. There's going to be numerous iterations of what you're doing. At the end of the day, I want to help other female founders find the success that I found.
So, Lindsay, thank you so much for being on here. You're such an incredible entrepreneur, an amazing leader. You're changing people's lives and helping them realize what they can be. So thank you so much. I do have one more question for you that I ask everybody that's on the show. Lindsay, how do you start your day with a win?
There are two things that I do to start my day with a win. First is, before I go to bed the night before, I always look at my calendar and make sure I know and am prepared for everything that I have coming up. I don't like to wake up to surprises, and sometimes the morning can be a little hairy with my 2 kids. So that is the number one thing that I do before bed every night. The other way I try to start my morning with a win is I really try to get off on the right foot with my kids in the morning, which is, like, no screaming about the brushing of the hair and, like the lunches and everything like that. I really try to make sure that we are all in a good place when we walk out the door, hence why I have an au pair. She helps a lot with that, because that way we all start our day on the right foot.
Awesome. Lindsay Pinchuk, amazing human being, great leader.
Thank you.
And an incredible entrepreneur. Thank you for being on Start With a Win.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, and thank you for listening to Start With a Win. For more great content, head over to adamcontos.com. We got a new site up. It looks beautiful. And you can head over there and get information about what's going on, leadership coaching. I mean, there's just a lot of great stuff happening over there. So head over to adamcontos.com if you haven't already. And until next time, remember, start with a win. Okay, wow. This is the show
Thank
after
you.
the show.
That was
All right?
awesome.
This is
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you
was
for having me.
That was really, really awesome. And I have a question for you as far as, this idea of you kind of, starting a community. Was that something that you had dreamt about, like when you were in the trenches in the corporate world, where you're like, man, someday I'm just going to go work for myself? Or was it really just something that was a happenstance, took place?
It happened. Like it was a really organic thing. I mean, also you have like pregnant women, just like it's a very natural community. I mean, people want to hear from each other. You're going through a lot of things that you've never gone through before. So I really showed up and shared. I mean, I was like, I would be walking down the street in Chicago and people would come up and be like, oh my God, like your birth story, like that was like amazing. Cause I shared it. Right. So like,
right.
But I was very transparent. And so people naturally like globbed on and gravitated. And later on, when I was going to other cities for events, people would show up and be like, I've been following you for years. And like, I love how you do X, Y, and Z with your family or whatever. And this happened like before social media. And it really was a natural thing. And what it's helped me to realize for a lot of my clients is that really, if you put your community first, your bottom line grows. I mean, it's like if you are like creating a community of people who are engaging with you and they trust you, they will transact from you.
Yeah, that's great. That's a nugget of truth right there, if I ever heard it.
And so that's what I'm trying to do again now. So
awesome.
That's great. Well, hey, thanks for sticking around, and thanks for hanging out with us on YouTube and hanging out for the after party. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit that thumbs up icon and the bell icon so you get notified every single time a new episode drops. Until next time, we'll see you when we see you.